do you want to learn that language? Everybody around here speaks Spanish.
I work at Texas Roadhouse.
What's that?
I work at Texas Roadhouse.
Yeah.
Sometimes in the back kitchen. They all speak Spanish right
Yeah.
there. I have a friend who learned how to speak like rudimentary Spanish just by being back there so long.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I want to do it because I want to go.
Yeah. Well, and see, I understand, but some people are like, why?
Some people don't. They're like, why do you want to go to Japan? And it's like, well, why not?
Right. Yeah. Okay. So we did some of these last time, but we didn't finish. Does anybody remember what we got up to? Was it Haas? Shinu Nanika.
I think we did that.
Okay. Hifu, Hone. Did we do those?
I think so.
Okay. Machi, Me. I want to say we got as far as some of the combinations. Am I right?
Yeah.
Okay. So, Wagyo. Okay. Yeah, I think we could get to some of these, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So.
I think we did that.
Did we do this page yet? Not yet? Okay, let's try from here. So, chisai, ya, yu, yo. So these are words that include those combination sounds that we just talked about. Okay, so let's practice some of those. So this is okyaku-san,
Okyaku-san.
okyaku-san,
Okyaku-san.
kyonen,
Kyonen.
kyonen,
Kyonen.
kyo,
Kyo.
kyo,
Kyo.
kyu,
Kyu.
kyu,
Kyu.
ju,
Ju.
ju,
Ju.
minshu-shugi.
Mitsushugi.
That's a mouthful, isn't it? Minshu-shugi,
Mitsushugi.
shakai,
Shakai.
densha,
Densha.
ryokan,
Yokan.
kinjo,
Kinjo.
ocha,
Ocha.
kyoko-chan,
Kyoko-chan.
kyoko-chan. Yeah, kyoko-chan is a name. Chan is a suffix that makes it like a diminutive. It's the equivalent of taking, say, John or Jonathan and turning it into Johnny, or Thomas turning it into Tommy, Daniel turning it into Danny, like that. So Chan on the end of a name makes it sound friendlier, closer, like you're really close with that person, your family or your close friends.
So less formal.
Much less formal, yeah. So Kyoko would be the person's name. Kyoko-san would be an honorific that you don't know her that well. Kyoko is a woman's name. So Kyoko-san would be formal. I don't know that person very well. Kyoko or Kyoko-chan would be friends. You don't leave the san off unless you're close friends or family. Okay? Kyoka.
Kyoka.
Kyokai.
Kyokai.
Jinja.
Jinja.
Chokin.
Toki.
Okay, so those are several, let's see. Did we do this page last time? Do you remember? I don't think we did. Okay, let's do this page. So these are tenten to chisai maru. Tenten is the two little tiny lines added so that sa becomes za, those kind. And then chisai maru is the little itty bitty circle. Chisai means small, maru means circle. So those are the P's, the P sounds. Okay, so dekigoto,
Dekigoto.
jidai,
Jidai.
gambaru,
Gambaru.
banpaku,
Banpaku.
kaba,
Kaba.
gaikokujin,
Gaikokujin.
shinpai,
Shinpai.
mondai,
Mondai.
arigatou,
Arigatou.
gozaimasu,
Gozaimasu.
gochishou-sama,
Gochishou-sama.
itadakimasu,
Itadakimasu.
tadaima,
Tadaima.
gozen,
Gozen.
gogo,
Gogo.
daigaku.
Daigaku.
Okay. Yes, some of these are vocab words. I deliberately infused as many of the vocab words as I could into some of these lists, but I also put in some random words that we're not learning yet because it's good reading practice to not know what it is yet and just have to sound it out. Okay, so, we just did chisai yayu yo. Or did we?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. 小さいつと長い母音。Okay, 母音 are vowels, so long vowels and the small tsu sound, which are two sounds that we're not used to considering in English. They're not even easily conveyable by English spellings. The small tsu sound is something that English really does not have except by accident. Okay? You know when you've got a bad cell phone connection and it's chopping the words off like that? You can't quite hear all. That's what this is supposed to sound like. Okay? That happens by accident for English. But kissaten isn't a good example because that's more of a hiss, but something like zutto. Zutto, the second one, zutto. Or like down here, this one, ikkai. Or gakko.
Gakko.
Whenever the small tsu occurs before a hard sound, like a K or a T, the small tsu in something like gakko, it's got that hesitation to it. It gets rendered in Romaji as a double K, gakko, like that. And a closer way to represent it might be to say that this K you don't fully pronounce. You start to say a K sound, and then there's a gap, and then you say the rest of the K, or a second K maybe. Does that kind of convey what I mean about this sound? So, gakko. Can you hear how, if you're dividing it into two syllables, the first syllable ends with a k sound, but it's not complete. Ga. Right? Can you hear it? And then there's a little pause, and then ko. Gakko. Okay, can everybody hear that? So, when it occurs before an S, like in kissaten, that one, it's more of a hiss. Kissaten. Like you start the S early, and it kind of hisses along a little bit, and then goes on to the next sound. Kissaten. Okay, so let's practice saying some of these. Kissaten. Zutto.
Zutto.
Okay, and then this is just others that I put in here. Oh, long vowel sounds is the other thing I put in. So when you see two vowel sounds next to each other, some of them are very distinct. So for example, if you have aoi, that's three distinct vowels that don't really run together very well. Aoi. Japanese people don't put gaps between them when they pronounce them, but you can hear all three sounds are there, right? Aoi. When you've got sounds like the A in eigo and eiga, if somebody's spelling it to you, telling you how to spell it, they will say it's spelled e-i-go. But that's not how you pronounce it in real life. It sort of runs the e and the e together. Eigo. Can you hear how the e and the e are both still kind of there, but it runs together to the point where this a, and this sound alike. Okay, so eigo kind of sounds like it could be spelled like this, but it's actually spelled like this. Does that make sense? One of the things I don't like about the Romaji in your textbook is that whether it's spelled this way or this way in hiragana, they spell the Romaji the same for these two. I find that obnoxious because then people mislearn the spellings because they're looking at the Romaji to learn their vocabulary in the first chapter, and because they haven't necessarily mastered hiragana yet, and they give them the word eigo, but then they go and spell it like that in the Romaji, and I'm like, no, it should be spelled like that in Romaji.
So if we were to spell it Romaji with an I, is that still acceptable?
That is better. I prefer this
Okay.
spelling for
I had noticed that, I
eigo.
wanted to ask about that.
Yeah, so there are two spellings that this textbook does that I consider to be misspellings. One is spelling these two alike. They're not the same in hiragana, they shouldn't be spelled the same in romaji. And by the way, if you're typing in romaji and having it come up on the screen in Japanese, if that's something you are doing, say in Word or whatever, if you spell it with two E's, you're going to get this spelling. And then it's going to be misspelled in your hiragana. So I prefer that you spell it proper phonetically, where you're representing each hiragana as it's meant to be in romaji. Okay? The other spelling where they do that is in things like the ko in gakko, where I spelled it, notice, so verbatim with the hiragana, right? But they will, in the textbook, they spell it with two O's, because again, when you have an O-U sound, they tend to run together in pronunciation. So gakko doesn't sound like ko-u, it sounds like ko, right? And there are words that are spelled ko-u, and there are words that are spelled o-o, like oto-san is o-u, but to, as in toi, is spelled that way. So those two different spellings exist in hiragana, and if I were to write this one in romaji, I would write otou-san. This one I would write toi, like that. The two different spellings exist. Unfortunately, our textbook renders both of them with a double O. That's one reason I'm so eager for students to learn their hiragana immediately instead of more slowly as we work our way through lesson 1. Because if we're working our way through lesson 1 and you're learning hiragana as we go, you are probably learning some of your vocabulary using romaji. And if you're learning vocabulary that uses these spellings, but depending on the textbook to tell you how to spell those words, you're learning them wrong. Okay, I want you to learn the correct spellings in hiragana and the correct use of the romaji so that when you want to type those words, you'll be able to. Because you know what? If you type this wrong, not only will it be spelled wrong in hiragana, if you hit the space bar, which makes everything turn to kanji, it'll be the wrong kanji, which makes it even worse. Because then you'll have a kanji that means something entirely different that, you know, is even harder to tell what the person originally meant. If I see this misspelled in hiragana, I can look at the single character that's wrong and think, okay, they meant to write oto-san, they just misspelled it. If it's converted to kanji, it's harder to extrapolate that leap. Okay, so it's really important that you guys learn the correct spellings of words like eigo and eiga. And to me, the pronunciation, the fact that the A converts to an A sound in speech, I think that's a natural conversion that you will learn to make with time. Because when you speed up and you say eigo, eiga, it just sort of naturally happens, right? So I think the pronunciation will come if you're learning the correct spellings. But the textbook uses those weird spellings in romaji that I don't like. So this should be eigo. Everybody say it with me. Eigo. Eiga. Ikkai. Gakko. Okaasan. Oji-san. Otou-san. Ohayo. Fuki. お兄さん、
お兄さん、
数字、
数字、
東京、
東京、
相談、
相談、
平和。
平和。
So you'll notice that except for the o, u spelling and e spelling, all the other long vowel sounds are very intuitive. They're not that hard to figure out, right? Okay. So, and don't forget this PowerPoint, this whole thing is on Canvas in the module labeled Lesson 1. So anytime you want to review this and practice it more, feel free to go in there and practice pronouncing these. Okay? Let's see. This is the one I want next. Okay, so we're going to actually go through our Daikka toreru. Daikka is lesson 1. Okay? The I with the small 2 after it is a modification of the word ichi, which means 1. Okay? Ka is lesson. And dai is number. When you're numbering things like number 1, number 2, number 3, daikka is number 1. So lesson number 1. Okay? Toreru is in katakana. Can you tell from the style that it's the other alphabet that we haven't learned yet? Okay? And then under here we have aisatsu, tango, to suji. Aisatsu means greetings. That first segment before lesson 1 officially starts is the aisatsu lesson. And then tango means vocabulary words. To is an and. It's a word for and that only gets used to connect nouns. We'll learn about other ways to say and much later. And then suji are digits, numbers. Suji is the word for numbers that's used when you're talking about mathematics, as opposed to bango, which is like a phone number kind of number. So they've got different terms sometimes for the numbers. But anyway, so we're going to talk about aisatsu, greetings. So let's practice aisatsu.
Aisatsu.
Aisatsu. Okay, and you can see the word is up there. Is that going to be hard to read? Do you want me to pull the screen down? Doesn't matter? Okay. So, good morning casual is ohayo,
Ohayo.
ohayo,
Ohayo.
ohayo gozaimasu,
Ohayo gozaimasu.
ohayo gozaimasu.
Ohayo gozaimasu.
Can everybody just read the English on their own without me saying it? So we can just focus on reading the Japanese, but I want you to notice what they mean as we're going, okay? Konnichiwa,
Konnichiwa.
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 Anyone notice anything special about this? The particle, okay, the N and the particle wa. Okay, so this is particle wa. This is one of 2 vocabulary words that have the particle wa in them instead of the normal wa. Okay, there are only 2 of them in the whole language as far as I know. Every other occurrence of particle wa is going to be in a sentence. Okay, even if it's a short sentence, it'll still be a sentence. The n here before the ni is another example of what would be drawn as a double consonant if you were writing in English. If you're spelling this out in English, you get, sorry, that's not English. Kon, ni, chi, wa. And please note that if you want to type this word, you actually have to type konnichiwa to get the particle wa. Because your computer doesn't have any clue whether you mean the particle wa or the regular wa. So if you just type WA, you're going to get this wa, which isn't the one you want here. So you have to actually type konnichiwa, but then read it as konnichiwa. It's one of the few remnants of classical Japanese left in the language where you actually have something that's not purely phonetic. Okay? The doubled N, unlike all the other doubled consonants in Japanese, which are going to be represented by the small tsu before the consonant sound, like in gakko, N's actually have an N sound to work with. It's the only standalone consonant in the language, right? So anytime you see a doubled N in Japanese, it's actually going to be with the N and then the ni. And if you're typing, you actually have to hit the N key twice to get the N. The first time you type N, you're going to get a letter N in English. If you just type the letter N key when you're in Japanese mode, you'll get an N like this because it's waiting for you to give it a vowel. So if you don't want it to have a vowel, you have to type this twice to get it to convert to that. And then if you want the ni after that, you have to type the N a third time and then an I to get the ni. So if you just type N, I, you're not going to get what you wanted. You're probably going to get an N and an E like that. Okay, so you actually have to, for this word in particular, you have to type the N twice to get that, and then N-I again to get that. That's one of those little tips that I didn't realize until I'd been typing Japanese for a while, why I was getting so many typos. So if you're typing in Japanese, you'll want to know how to do that. So this is konnichiwa. And you'll notice that you should be able to hear kind of an extra N sound in there. Try it with me. Konnichiwa.
Konnichiwa.
There you go. Konbanwa.
Konbanwa.
There's our other example. Those are the two, okay? They're conveniently paired next to each other. So konbanwa is the other example of particle wa in a vocab word. Okay? Sayonara.
Sayonara.
There's another one of those long O sounds that's spelled with an U. Okay? Oyasumi.
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 Oyasumi nasai.
Oyasumi nasai.
Oyasumi nasai.
Oyasumi nasai.
Arigato.
Arigato.
Another of those long U's spelled with a long O is spelled with an U, right? Arigato.
Arigato.
Arigatou gozaimasu.
Arigatou gozaimasu.
Right? Arigatou gozaimasu.
Arigatou gozaimasu.
Notice that regardless of where we might consider the word break to be, Japanese doesn't necessarily put a break there. They kind of run this whole thing together. That's all one word to a Japanese person, even though you could argue for gozaimasu being a separate word. Arigatou gozaimasu. Sumimasen.
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 Iie.
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 Notice that this is spelled E-E-E, right? Not to be confused with ie, which is a house. Okay? That's a very important contrast. The contrast between the short vowels and long vowels is really important. It can be a world of difference between them. So, ie, ittekimasu.
Ittekimasu.
There's that small tsu. Can you tell that it's small?
Yes.
Okay, it's only a little bit shorter than the full-sized ones, but if you look at, consider this to be the top line, the highest point of the other letters in the line, then that small tsu is quite clearly lower than that, right? That's how you have to tell, because most fonts make the small tsu about 3/4 size rather than half size. It would be a whole lot easier if they'd make it half size, wouldn't it? Most fonts aren't that nice to us. So, ittekimasu.
Ittekimasu.
Itterashai.
Itterashai.
Tadaima.
Tadaima.
ただいま、
ただいま、
おかえり、
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 おかえりなさい、
おかえりなさい、
おかえりなさい。
おかえりなさ
いただきます。
い。いただきます。
いただきます。
いただきます。
ごちそうさま、
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 ごちそうさまでした。
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 Did anyone notice a pattern yet in terms of when it takes longer to say the word versus the shorter version of the same phrase? Yes, longer is more formal, shorter is more casual. That's a pretty good rule of thumb that works probably 95% of the time. So, ごちそうさまでした。はい。はじめまして。
はじめまして。
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 よろしくお願いします。
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 Note that はじめまして is truly for only when you meet somebody for the first time. よろしくお願いします often ends a self-introduction, but it's not only for self-introductions or meeting someone for the first time. It also can be the start of any new working relationship or friendship or any time when you're starting something together. So let's say 3 of you are going to be collaborating on a school project. If you're Japanese, you're going to say yoroshiku onegaishimasu to each other at the beginning of that collaboration to say, let's work well together, let's do a good job on this project together. Even if the 3 of you that are working on that project together have known each other for 20 years. Okay, so it's not just for new acquaintances, for yoroshiku onegaishimasu. You will hear it used all kinds of different ways. Anytime 2 people are starting something new together, and they want to clarify that I really want your help with this. Please don't let me down. You know. Okay. 表現ノート. This is a section that occurs in every chapter of your book. Okay, expression notes. It's usually further clarification of certain expressions that are taught in that lesson, and it's usually also cultural, important or interesting cultural information that relates to some of the vocabulary or grammar points being taught. I think the Hyogen Noto in the Aisatsu segment has to do with bowing, ojigi, and all the different ways and reasons why Japanese people might bow. So it's interesting and informative and good to read. But we don't usually read them in class, and we only occasionally talk about them in class because we usually just don't have time. But they're written in English, so you can read them easily. Okay? Practice is renshu. This is another segment that occurs in every chapter after the grammar points introduce the grammar structures for that lesson. Then there'll be a longer section called renshu where it gives exercises about each of the grammar points, generally in the same order that they were introduced in the grammar section. Daika. So this is lesson 1. Okay. Kaiwa. That's another segment in every chapter except for the Aisatsu one. That's the only mini lesson that didn't have it. But every other lesson has a kaiwa, which is like a dialogue script. And you can listen to them on your CDs. You can also go to the Genki Online official website for this textbook, and unless the link is broken, there should be a video of every kaiwa. So you can actually watch it being acted out by native speakers in Japan. And that can be useful for people who are struggling with some of the pronunciation or understanding the context of some of the situations. They show it to you in context. So, kaiwa. Tango, he said, was vocab. Tango. Okay, and here we have the actual tango from lesson 1. So, notice that it's often pronounced with the no drawn out, even though that's not an official part of the spelling. Just because if you're saying you sometimes tend to draw it out, right? Same thing in Japanese. So, this is really useful. Use it instead of if you're trying to think of what to say in Japanese. If you say Japanese people don't necessarily know what you're saying if they don't speak good English. But if you say that conveys to them, okay, he's trying to think of an answer, but just doesn't have it ready on his tongue yet. But the answer is coming, so I should be patient and wait for it, rather than assuming, oh, this guy didn't understand a single thing I just said to him and walking away. Okay, so if you either feel like you understood what the person said, but you need time to reply, or you didn't really understand and you need time to come up with the phrase for please repeat that, or whatever it is, if you want the conversation to continue, is a way to let the other person know that you're not ignoring them, you're not a rude American, you're really planning to answer. Okay, very useful. Ima. Eigo. Gakusei. Go. Nihongo. Koukou. Notice that this is with the long vowels, right? If you leave out the two u's, you get koko, which is the word for here, not high school. Okay? So koko and koukou, very important to make those distinctions. Koukou. Gogo is PM. It comes before the time phrase in Japanese. Gogo. Gozen. Also comes before the time phrase for AM. Sai. Example, nisai. Okay, so if you've got a baby nephew or something that's 2 years old, nisai desu. He's 2 years. Okay, Mr. or Ms. San. Okay, so name goes in that spot. So for example, Yamada-san. Ji. Example, Ichiji. Okay, so notice the word order. Number first and then the suffix ji. Okay, Jin. So for example, Nihonjin. Right? Senko. Sensei. Notice that sensei is not literally teacher. It is more literally respected person, but it's a suffix that can be added on to a teacher's name. So for example, I had, in college, I had Hamada Sensei and Nishikawa Sensei and a variety of other sensei. And you can also call somebody just sensei. So that's a term of respect. It's used very commonly for all teachers in Japan. So, even when I was teaching English over there, people called me sensei on the street. Even if they didn't know my name, if they knew, oh yeah, there goes the Gaijin teacher, because I was the only one in town. So they would call me sensei just because they had heard that that's what I was, because they knew I was the only one. So, so sensei is what a lot of my students call me too. You don't have to remember my weird last name that way. So, so desu. Right. So desu ka? Daigaku. Daigakusei. notice that sometimes in certain combinations, the vowel sound of a particular letter gets a little bit shortened. So, for example, daigaku, you hear the full ku, right? Daigakusei, you lose a little bit of the u in there. The K is still there, but the u sound gets a little bit shortened, right? Daigakusei. Right. Denwa,
電話
denwa,
電話
tomodachi,
友達
tomodachi,
友達
namae,
名前
namae,
名前
none,
None.
none,
None.
nani,
Nani.
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 Which of these you use depends on the context. So as we learn phrases that use nan or nani, I will point out to you which one it's using, and it is a set thing. A phrase that requires nan always requires nan. A phrase that requires nani always requires nani. Okay, so for example, what is it is nan desu ka? You cannot use nani desu ka, that doesn't work. It's always nan there. Okay, so it's hard to pin down a rule for it, so I'm just going to point it out to you as it comes up, and you get a feel for it eventually. Just mostly from hearing them used in context, and it gets to a point where it'll sound right or it'll sound wrong eventually. So nani is the other one. So nihon,
日本
nihon,
日本
what we're studying about, right? Nensei,
年生
nensei.
年生
So again, you put a number in the blank and you get something like ichinensei,
一年生
ichinensei.
一年生
Note that ichinensei can mean first grader. It can also mean first year student in middle school, first year student in high school, or freshman in college. So they don't distinguish that way. They distinguish by putting in the kind of school the student is in. So for example, shogakko is elementary school, and you can say shogakko ichinensei, mean first grader. Chugakko is middle school. Chugakko ichinensei would be seventh grader in English. And then koukou ichinensei would be 10th grader in English, because that's where they split in Japan. They do 633. And then daigaku ichinensei would be freshman in college. Okay. Hai.
はい
Everybody's probably heard that one before, am I right? Okay. Han.
半
Han.
半
Niji han.
2時半
So notice ni is 2, ji is o'clock, han is half, as in half past in this case. So ni, ji, han. If you look at the digital time, a way to remember where the ji belongs in this phrase is to think of the ji as being like the colon that separates the time. If it's just 2 o'clock, you just say niji desu, right? Niji, right? Niji han, the 30 comes after the colon, right? So niji han, that's the order it goes in Japanese. Number is bango. Actually, just to clarify, denwa was telephone. I think we had that earlier, right? Denwa bango is phone number. Denwa bango. Denwa bango. So, and if you guys looking for a pickup line, denwa bango wa nan desu ka? What's your phone number? Okay. Ryugakusei.
留学生
Ryugakusei. I think your textbook calls this international student rather than exchange student. They're interchangeable. The Japanese uses this one term for both. Okay, ryugakusei.
Is that a small u?
That is a small u, yes. Thank you for asking. Ryugakusei. Okay, so that's exchange student. Ryugakusei. Watashi.
私
Watashi.
私
You might think this is a very important word to know, but actually Japanese doesn't use pronouns nearly as much as English. You're going to drop it as often as you use it. suji,
Suji.
numbers, very important to know. So here are the numbers, the digits. So re
Re.
and zero
Zero.
are two different words for zero. Re is from original Japanese. Zero, can you guess where that came from? And you can tell it's in katakana. Katakana is the writing style of choice for any words borrowed from Western languages. If it's from Chinese or Korean, usually it has kanji associated with it, and it'll be written in kanji or hiragana. But if it's from any of the European languages or anything outside of the few countries that use kanji, then it's going to be written in katakana. Okay? Ichi,
Ichi.
ichi,
Ichi.
ni,
Ni.
ni,
Ni.
san,
San.
san,
San.
yon,
Yon.
yon,
Yon.
or shi,
Shi.
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 There are a number of things in Japanese that have multiple alternate pronunciations, and unfortunately, the numbers are one of those things. So when you're counting ichi, ni, san, shi, or ichi, ni, san, yon, either one is fine, but you need to know both because there are certain phrases where one is required or the other is required. And the other thing is, like I noted before with ichi, ikka, sometimes the numbers shift their pronunciation in certain prescribed ways with certain combinations. So suffixes that follow numbers sometimes force the numbers to change their pronunciation. So there are words like shigatsu, April, that always use shi. There are words like yonensei that use a modified form of yon, yonensei, and yoji for 4 o'clock. And then there are places where yon, the full form of 4 in that pronunciation, are used. So again, I will point them out as they come up, because there's no easy rule to learn when to use one or the other. You just have to learn them as you go, as the vocabulary words occur. So, go,
Go.
go,
Go.
roku,
Roku.
roku,
Roku.
nana,
Nana.
nana,
Nana.
or shichi,
Shichi.
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 So, same deal as with yon. Okay. Hachi,
Hachi.
hachi,
Hachi.
kyu,
Q.
kyu,
Q.
ju,
Ju.
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 Okay. Juichi,
Juichi.
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 Notice the pattern here? 10 and 1, juichi, right? Juni,
Juni.
juni,
Juni.
jusan,
Jusan.
jusan,
Jusan.
juyon,
Juyon.
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 Notice that yon is the more common combination here. Jushi is possible, but it's not used very much. Jugo,
Jugo.
jugo,
Jugo.
juroku,
Juroku.
juroku,
Juroku.
junana,
Junana.
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 Same deal there. Jushichi just isn't used much. Juhachi,
Juhachi.
juhachi,
Juhachi.
jukyu,
Jukyu.
jukyu,
Jukyu.
niju.
Niju.
See what we did? So Juni is 12, Niju, 2 tens, 20. So place value is sort of embedded in the way the numbers are pronounced in Japanese. So Niju is 20, Nijuichi is 21, and that pattern continues, okay? So I did skip some of the numbers. So Nijuichi is 21, Sanju is 30, Yonju, 40, Goju, Rokuju, Nanaju, Hachiju, Kyuju. So you can get all the way to Kyuju-Q, which would be 99, without needing a new vocabulary word. Those first 10 vocabulary words, ichi, kara, ju, You don't even have to know shi and shichi to work with these, right? You can just do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Or, sorry, I said shichi, but it should be 7, 8, 9, 10. If you know those 10, you can get all the way to 99 if you know the pattern to work with, right? And then you learn a new word, hyaku. Notice that this is the hya combination one, hyaku. It's a small ya. Okay, so hyaku. And then it starts over. You can do hyakuichi for 101. Okay, hyakuni, 102. Hyakujugo would be 115. Hyakugojuroku would be 156. And you can get all the way to Q, hyakukyuju before you need a new vocabulary word. Okay, 999. So numbers in Japanese are very systematic. It's fairly logical. So that's a good thing, because doing math in another language is always hard. But having a logical system makes it easier. Okay, now we'll talk about time. So ichiji is obviously 1 o'clock. Okay, niji, sanji, yoji, goji, rokuji, shichiji. There's an example where you need shichi. And actually, I forgot to mention it, but there's yoji. Remember? We talked about that. So special case, yoji. Special case, shichiji. Nanaji doesn't get used. Nanaji sounds like you're saying something entirely different. Shichiji is the word for 7 o'clock. Okay, and then hachiji. Kuji. Special case again. Q is the normal pronunciation for 9. There are a couple of special vocabulary words where it gets pronounced ku instead of q. Okay, so 9 o'clock is the most common of those special pronunciation cases for 9. So kuji. Okay. Juji. Juichiji. Juniji. Now, some Japanese people like to use the 24-hour clock, the military clock, but in conversation it's not that common. It's more likely that people use gozen and gogo for AM and PM with the 12-hour clock, but you will see the 24-hour clock used a lot in things like posting the hours that a business is open. So like a business in Japan might have their hours posted on their door or whatever, like we do here, and it'll very often, in that case, be in 24-hour time rather than the 12-hour style. Okay, half past is always adding han after the ji, so there's ichiji han, ichiji han. Okay, and that's the end of the vocabulary for this chapter. Yay! So, questions about the vocabulary? Anything come up for anybody that they were wondering about?
Do we have to learn the country's majors occupation?
Okay, let's address that right now. So, the reason they're not in my PowerPoint is because they're labeled as additional vocabulary in here. And so, there are a couple of vocabulary words that may show up on the chapter test, like maybe father and mother, okasan, otosan, those. But other than that, these are mostly here FYI for now. They're going to come up again, most of them in the next chapter. Some of the countries are not going to come up very often. Honestly, Sweden doesn't come up all that often. Some of the others, Australia doesn't come up all that often. Some of the others do come up more often. Same thing with the majors. Most of those vocabulary words will occur again in another chapter if they want you to really memorize them. So I tried to restrict my content when I was making the chapter test to the first page of Tango for this chapter. Now, going forward, all the other chapters have a 2-page vocab list, and you're expected to know all of them going forward, but this particular chapter, they call it additional vocabulary, and a lot of it seems to be stuff that's not really necessary yet. So I'm not requiring it, and you do have that other list of aisatsu, which are required, so I feel like that's enough vocabulary for the first chapter. So you are expected to know your aisatsu and the first page of the Tango, okay? But the additional vocab is optional for now. Like I said, most of it is going to come up again later, and you'll be expected to know it then,
Okay.
okay? And any of these that are relevant to your life, you might want to go ahead and learn them now, because they're going to be activities that we're going to be doing, such as a self-introduction paragraph that you're going to write later, where you're going to want to include whichever of these terms apply for you, for your life, your family, whatever it is you're writing in your self-intro. So if you're going to tell, what you're majoring in college, if it's on that list, go ahead and learn that one. If you're going to tell about your age and your family's ages, your parents, your siblings, learn the terms that are relevant. You might not have all of those. You might only have some of those sibling terms in your particular family, so you might not feel like you need to learn all of them right now, but the ones that are relevant to you, it's good to learn, because one of the things, like I said, for this chapter is going to be learning how to do a self-introduction and being able to do it both written and verbally, to be able to actually stand up and say, "Hajimemashite, watashi wa Kagoda desu. 家族は4人です。子供が2人います。I'm just doing it off the top of my head here, so some of it is stuff you guys aren't learning yet, but you guys will be able to, by the end of this chapter, say, "Hello, my name is, I'm X years old, I'm majoring in blah, blah, blah. I'm a whatever year student in college," and even go on to say, for example, "My dad is so many years old and is a lawyer, my mom is so many years old and she's a doctor, my little brother is this age and is a high school student," whatever. Okay? So, I want you to be able to do that with the vocabulary that's relevant for you. Okay? Any other questions about vocab? Okay. Did everybody read their grammar explanations that was part of the homework assignment? Yes, no, not really? Some people did, some people didn't? Okay. Well, let's go ahead and look at Renshu, which starts on 48 page. 48 page is the start of Renshu. 48. Okay, so 48, 48 page. Everybody with me? Okay, 48 page. Okay, so we just went through the numbers in our PowerPoint. Let's see if, using that as a reference if you need to, let's see if we can go around the room and get everybody to say the numbers in the book. Okay, so let Marianne look at hers real quick so she can do her first one.
Yep, go.
Goal. Okay, can you see the second one there is, B is number 9, so 9 is
Koyu?
Q.
Q?
Q, okay.
It's harder.
Okay, C is 7, so, sorry, Kimberly, that's right? Yeah, Kimberly. 10, Ju, okay. Number 8,
Hachi.
Hachi, good. Number 2, Mark, right?
Right, Niji.
G is number 2, so that's
Me.
me. There you go. Okay, and let's see. Benjamin, number 6, Roku, good. And number 4,
Yo.
Yon. Okay, and back to Marianne. Number 3 is
Son.
Sun. Good. Okay, now we're going on to some two-digit numbers and larger. So Johnny, 45 would be
40.
so what's 4?
Oh,
4 is Yon, right? And then it's 45, right? So it's 4 tens and then 5. So the 10 word is
Ju.
Ju, right?
Okay.
And then 5 is goal, okay? So that's how that works, okay? Yonju goal, 45, okay? 83, Kimberly?
3 is Hachi-ju-san.
Hi, Hachiju-san. Okay, 19, Ryan? Ju-Q, right. 76, Nina?
76.
Hi, 76. Okay, 52.
52.
Hi, 52. Okay, Mark? 100. 100. Okay, and Benjamin, 38. 38, yes. And 61. William?
Roku Juichi.
Rokujuichi, okay. 24, Marianne?
24.
Yes, Nijuyon, good. And 97, Johnny?
Ju. Shi.
Kyuju Shichi is possible, or Kyuju Nana. Okay, Kyuju Nana. Okay. Now they're making it hard. They're making you do math in Japanese. So, if I were to read this out in Japanese, it would be go tasu san. Tasu is add. So, go tasu san wa, really?
Oh, it's me. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Go Tosu-san. Hachi.
8.はい。じゃあ、ライアンさん、9たす1は10。はい。じゃあ、姫菜さん、3たす4は
7.
はい。Okay, and then minus, believe it or not, they often just say minus. So, 6 minus 6ははい、0です。はい。10たす9は19ですね。じゃあ、ベンジャミンさん、8マイナス7は1ですね。はい。40マイナス25。はい。15ですね。はい。いいですね。上手。Good job, everybody. じゃあ、時間、time. 時間見ましょう。So they've got cute little clocks here showing you the basic times, right? And we have an example Q&A. Okay, so let's see. Marian-san to Johnny-san, can you read the question and let him read the answer? Okay,
今何時ですか？
you see too.
1半です。
1時半です
1時。
Yeah, 1時半です. Okay, one more time.
1時半です。
はい、1時半です. Okay, so do you see how they've got the example clock there that's showing you 1:30. And so one student asks, 今何時ですか? Which is asking what? What time is it now, right? Ima is now. There's that nun. Notice that it's nanji, not naniji, right? Nanji, desu ka? What time is it now? Okay. Des, does anybody know what des means by itself? Des is like the verb is in English, okay? Is or am or are. There's no distinction in Japanese. Des is always des. In English, he is, they are, I am. It changes depending on the pronoun. No shift in Japanese because of pronoun. Okay, it just stays des. So, ima, now, nanji, what time, desu ka, is question mark. The ka on the end of a statement turns it into a question. Okay? Okay, so ima nanji desu ka? And then the answer was ichiji han desu. So you say the time phrase followed by desu to mean it is that time. Okay, so Joni-san, you're going to read the question this time, and Kimberly's going to answer it for number 1. And then we're going to go around the room like that. Everybody's going to get a turn asking the question, and everybody's going to get a turn answering the question. Okay, so you start by asking the question.
Ima nanji desu ka?
There you go.
Sanji desu.
Hi, Sanji desu. Okay, you can ask Ryan, please.
Ima nanji desu ka?
9時です。
はい、9時ですね。じゃあ、ライムさん、姫野さんに聞いて。
今何時ですか？
11時です。
はい、どうぞ。
今何時ですか？
Suji desu.
It's 7, so
Suji.
not Suji, Shichiji.
Shiji.
Yeah, Shichiji desu. Okay, もう一度 say it one more time. Say it one more time.
Shiji desu.
Shichiji desu. That one's a little bit of a tongue twister,
Yeah.
huh? Shichiji desu. One more time.
Shiji desu.
はい、Shichiji desu. はい。Okay, じゃあどうぞ ask Mark a question.
今何時ですか？
9時半です。
はい。Okay, ask Benjamin the question.
今何時ですか？
Benjamin.
今6で。
Yes. Okay. 4時半
4時
です。
半です。
はい、4時半ですね。じゃあどうぞ。
今何時ですか？10時です。
Say again? 12時です。はい、12時です。Okay, and ask Marianne.
今何時ですか？
Okay, I'm sorry, I drew a blank. 6時
です。
です。
はい。
6時です。
はい、ありがとう。Okay, any questions about telling time?
Han always comes after the.
Yes, Han always comes after G. It's a little counterintuitive because it's different from English order, but that's the way it is. So that's why I like to say, instead of thinking of it as like 3:30, it is Sanji Han. Think about it as, here's your sun, right? Here's your G, and here's your Han. See, there. 3 is here, there's your, and there's your Han. Does that make sense? Sanji Han. If you think about it like that, then it helps you keep it in order. Make sense? Okay. So, tsugi, let's look at the next segment where we're actually going to be looking at their silly little awkward looking map. Right? The world's worst world map. And they have identified a variety of world cities. And we are pretending that it is a particular time in our time zone, 1 p.m. And we're talking about what time it would be in other parts of the world if it's 1 p.m. here. Right? Okay, so again, we're going to have This time Johnny gets to read the question, and Kimberly gets to read the answer for the example to model for us what it's going to sound like. And then you're going to do your best to put a Japanese accent on all these world cities. And if you're not sure how that would sound in Japanese, don't worry, because I'm going to also help you out with those, okay? So you're going to read the example question. Kimberly's going to read the example answer, so we get to hear what this is supposed to sound like, and then we're going to model our continuing question and answer after that. どうぞ。
東京は今何時ですか？
午前3時です。
はい、いいですね。So does everybody see how it works? Where does the gozen or gogo belong?
In the front.
Before, in the front, yes. And where does the city name go? In the very front part of the question, right? And what follows the city name?
Wa.
Particle wa. Okay? Do you know why? What is particle wa? Does anybody remember from the grammar explanation? Yeah, it identifies what part of the sentence?
The main.
The main subject, the topic or subject, okay? So, Tokyo wa ima nanji desu ka? So, the subject of our sentence there is Tokyo. Tokyo is the place that we want to know the time for. We're not worried about other places, we're asking about Tokyo specifically. So that's how you specify this thing, wa, and then I ask my question about it. Okay, so Tokyo wa ima nanji desu ka? So what time is it in Tokyo now? Okay, Tokyo wa ima nanji desu ka? Gozen 3時です. Okay, so let's see. Kimberly is going to come up with a question about London, because that's number 1 there, okay? And Ryan's going to answer. So London comes out as London. London. Yes.
ロンドンは今何時ですか？
午後6時です。
はい、午後6時ですね。いいですね。Okay. And oh, you get a doozy. You get Stockholm.
ストックホーム。Okay. ストックホームは何時ですか？今何時ですか？
はい。
7時、午後7時です。
はい、午後7時です。はい、いいですね。Okay, yours is relatively easy. It's very close to the English. Nairobi.
ナイロビ。
はい。
ナイロビは今何時ですか？
午後9時です。
はい、午後9時です。はい。じゃあ4番 is okay. New Delhi.
ニューデリ
はい。
ー。ニューデリーは今何時ですか？
はい。
午後11時半です。
はい。午後11時半ですね。They're always a half hour off. I always find that weird. Okay, どうぞ. You're asking Benjamin-san about, 5番 is Bangkok.
今は今何時ですか？
午前1時です。
はい、午前1時です。はい。Notice that the su on the end of desu is one of those places where the u somewhat disappears. So instead of pronouncing it fully desu, which is what it's spelled like, it gets pronounced most of the time as des. Yeah. Okay, so 午前1時ですね。はい。じゃあ6番、シドニー。
シドニーは今何時ですか？
何時
今
ですか？
何時ですか？
午前4時です。
はい、午前4時ですね。じゃあ、7番、OK。So, ニューヨーク。
ニューヨークは今何時ですか？
It's 1 o'clock.
午後1時です。
はい、そうですね。午後1時です。はい、どうぞ。Oh, sorry. So, you get another doozy. Rio de Janeiro.
Gonna just say it in Spanish.
That's cheating.
リオデジャネイロは今何時ですか？
午後3時です。
はい、午後3時です。いいですね。よくできました。Good job, everybody. That was challenging, huh? Okay. Oh boy, now we get to go talking about phone numbers. Okay, so we're doing a lot of repetition and reinforcement of numbers, right? Which is good because that's a foundational skill that everybody should have, right? You always want to know how to count and understand numbers in another language. What if you want to buy something, right? What if you need somebody to tell you what time the train leaves or what time your flight leaves?
Or do math in Japanese for fun.
Right.
Just for fun.
Or pick up girlfriends or boyfriends and find out their phone numbers. Okay, so next we're going to read the following people's phone numbers. And let's talk for just a second about how phone numbers get pronounced in Japanese. Because there are two things that make it easier to understand a phone number, especially if you're telling it to someone over the phone. One is where there's a hyphen, a dash, you can say no. Okay? That's what they use in place of a hyphen when they're pronouncing numbers in Japanese. The other thing is that the short one-syllable numbers like ni and go, the vowel sound gets extended so that you hear it for a little bit longer that helps you catch it. So in terms of, let's say the number was just, the numbers 1 through 9 in order, the way you would pronounce them is ichi, ni, san, shi, go, not shi, yon. That's the other thing. Yon and nana are standard for phone numbers because shi and shichi and ichi sound too much alike. Right? That could get really confusing. So, ichi, ni, extend the vowel on that one, san, yon, go, roku, nana, hachi, kyu, and ju is not going to occur. Yeah, just zero. Yeah, so ichi and zero instead, okay? Because it gets really confusing if you start doing stuff like niju kyu in a phone number. Oh, wait a minute. Is it ni and then ju and then q, or is it niju q? Right? That would be really bad. So you just say the individual digits, 0 through 9. Okay? So Johnny-san, go ahead and read the example for Yamashita-san.
This is ni hachi san no kyugo yan nana.
Yon nana. Make sure you pronounce it yon, not yan. Okay, so one more time.
Ni hachi san no kyugo yon nana.
はい、そうですね。じゃあ、大学の電話番号ははい、いいですね。OK、じゃあ、先生の電話番号。ライアンさん。
3624451
はい、そうです。じゃあ、メリーさんの電話番号。
020の6921の4236。
はい、そうですね。Notice the number of digits varies. It's not always the same as American numbers. はい、じゃあ、たけしさん。
030の85の103。
はい、そうですね。Okay. Okay, now let's see. The next few people are going to practice reading the dialogue. So we're going to have Mark read the first line A. Okay, and Benjamin's going to read B.
電話番号は何ですか？
283の9547です。
Hi. Okay. Go ahead and finish out the dialogue. You do A and Benjamin does B again. Okay. So
283の9547でしょ。
ですね。
あ、ですね。はい。
はい、そうです。
はい、そうです. So do you see how that dialogue works? Okay. So now I want everybody to take a second on a piece of scratch paper, figure out how you would say your own phone number in Japanese. Okay. If you can, just write it out and read it from that in Japanese, fine. If you need to actually write out the letters. Okay. If you don't want to give out your actual phone number, if you're afraid somebody's going to stalk you, then you can make up a number, or you know, give somebody else's number. But I want everybody to come up with.
Do we usually get 3 numbers or just
You can do the 321 area code or some other area code if you want. You know.
But is it 3 numbers or just our number? Just one?
Your own phone number, just your own, just one. You don't. Oh, okay. Oh, were they saying to do 3 different people's phone numbers? Oh, I see. Yeah, the group work activity said 3 numbers, but yeah, for now, just do your own, and then we're going to practice that little dialogue that we just had, and you guys are going to take turns asking somebody what their number is. They're going to read it off to you. You can use that scratch paper that you've got out that you're putting your own number on to also jot down their number. And then read it back to them just like the dialogue in the book where you're confirming that you got it down correctly. So if you don't have scratch paper, raise your hand.
No, I just need a pen.
Oh, you just need a pen. I
I
can lend you
forgot
a
this
pen.
morning.
Okay. Okay, and then whoever is taking down your number, you have to listen carefully, and when they read it back to you, tell them if they got it right or not. So if they got it right, you can answer just like the book. Hi, so this. Okay? If they get it wrong, you have to say iie, and then give the correct number in its place. Okay? So correct them. It might take a couple of tries for some people to get it all right. And I'm going to grab a little bit of scratch paper of my own so that I can jot it down as you guys say it also. Okay, so let's see, we were up to, let's see, you guys in the back did the dialogue. Okay, so Benjamin is going to be the first one to ask William. And so William's going to answer first. And then Will's going to ask Marianne. And then Marianne's going to ask Johnny. And then Johnny's going to ask Kimberly. Kimberly's going to ask Ryan. And Ryan's going to ask Lena. And Lena's going to ask, Ellie. And then Ellie's going to ask we might have to have some people do it next time, because I think we're gonna run out of time. Okay, let's start. Okay, so Benjamin-san, you get to read the question, and he's going to answer with his actual phone number, or whatever phone number he wanted to make up. Okay?
For William-san, 電話は何ですか?
電話番号は何ですか? Okay. One more time. 電話番号
電話番号
は
はですか?
何ですか?
は何ですか?
Hi. Okay. And William's going to answer.
53
Say again.
53
Hi.
6の7 4 7 8
Des.
です。
Hi. Okay, so now read it back to him.
283
No, what he just said. Did you take notes?
No.
Okay, ask him again.
電話番号は何ですか? 53 6の7 4 7 8
Des.
です。
Okay, so you can ask for him to repeat himself. You can say, もう一度言ってください。もう一度言ってください is please say it again.
Go. 3 6 4 7 4 7 8
Des.
です。
Leaving the des off makes it much, much, much more casual. And for now, we're learning the neutral polite forms, which always end in either des or a verb that ends with mas, or masen, or mashita, or masen deshita, because those are politer structures. So appropriate for people you don't know very well yet, appropriate for asking for directions in the street, things like that. Okay, have you got it?
5 3 6 7 4 7
But you have to say it in Japanese.
5 3 6 7 7 4 7 8
ですね。
ですね。はい、そうです。
はい、いいですね。You guys did it. Okay, so by the way, the ne on the end there, ですね, is like, that's it, right? So you said it back, 536の7478ですね. So the ne is like looking for confirmation, wanting to know if I got it right or not. And so you answer, はい、そうです, and that is the confirmation that yes, you got it right. Okay, we are out of time for today, so I want everybody else to practice up on this. And next class, that's what we're going to start with right after the warm-up stuff. Where we'll write on the board at the very beginning of class. We'll do a little bit of vocab review at the beginning of class, and then after we've done our vocab review, we will jump into this activity, and it'll be Will's turn to ask Marianne for a phone number. Hi.
I don't really know where you should be working on, so.
Okay. Have you looked at this thing?
No.
Ah, that's why.
Is that the syllabus?
It is called the schedule, and it's right under the syllabus on that home page, the first page in Canvas. The syllabus and the schedule are the two downloads.
Schedule, and I have to know by next class.
Yes. So find it on there, on, you'll know for next class what we're up to. And I just told you what we're starting with, and then if you look in the textbook, you can kind of just go along in order. I don't necessarily know ahead of time how far we're going to get, so this I make up way in advance. It might not be entirely accurate. Like today we were supposed to finish through page 44 and then that's 1 through 48, A, B, and C, 49, and then page 57. Yeah, so we may be ahead of that schedule or we may be behind it sometimes, but either way, whatever we finish in class on a given day, you can assume that whatever the next part of the textbook Nenshu is, that's what we'll be doing next. So like today we finished to the top of page 51, but we didn't complete that exercise, so we'll be continuing from the top of page 51, which is that exercise that we were just doing. Right? Oh, how did I fumble that? Okay.
I just found something out that was kind of funny.
Yeah,
I get Florida Today updates on my phone.
yeah.
I just kept checking.
Hi, do I touch my stick?
I just lost my Navy Federal card yesterday.
What?
The the older ATMs. I
Uh-huh.
guess I feel like that guy now. They hold on to the card. They actually.
Oh, yeah,
read it.
if you have like you do the thing wrong, or if it's an expired card or something, it just holds on to it sometimes.
Yeah, but I just left it. I did what I needed to do, and I left it.
Oh, yeah, some of them spit it right out immediately, but some of them hold on to it until you're done with your transaction.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
That was the Navy Federal one, but I just found out. I went to this. It was the VA Medical Center,
Yeah.
the new one that they lost where the money went. I went there and I just remembered how I got lost, and I can't believe they actually finished it now
Wow.
because they were moving so much stuff. I got lost in there. But thank you so much for helping me find all that stuff.
Oh, you're welcome. Oh, you wanted to also know how to add Japanese to your computer?
I actually just figured it out in class.
Oh, okay.
This thing just says add a language.
Ah,
It's right in the
right
settings.
there.
I couldn't
Okay.
believe it.
That's nice.
It's,
Yeah,
it's,
most of them don't make it quite that easy.
it's so good. I went right into settings.
Uh-huh.
Take this off right here. And it's right here in time and language.
All right.
And it says region and language.
Yep, there it is.
Add a language.
Yep. It makes it real easy for you these days, huh? It used to be such a hassle to add Japanese and Chinese, and now it's so simple with the newer computers.
Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah, it's becoming more and more common that people want those languages, and it's becoming more and more accessible as the technology has improved.
I've had to step up.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm not a computer whiz, and I had to learn how to figure out how to use this thing.
Yeah. Okay, so this is done.
These technologies.
Yeah.
It's nuts.
Okay, so I've got my notes for next time that we're going to start from page 51. Okay, so you guys were saved by the bell. You get a chance to practice up on how to ask and answer about phone numbers.
I hate numbers in Japanese. I always draw a blank. What's the difference between so desu ka, so desu ka and so desu ne? No, not so desu ka. So that's the question.
Just so desu and so
And
desu
so
ne.
desu ne.
So desu is just saying, yes, that's the case. So desu ne is like, ain't that the truth?
Say
So
that again.
one is more just a matter of fact, yes,
Mm-hmm.
that is true. And the other one has more feeling to it, like, oh, I agree with you. That is so true.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Because when they were reading back the numbers, let's say I finished the phone number and then it was